going to be looking at social media. You're just going to pick them out and email them.
On the left of Colin, Senor Elliott.
I would just pick a seat, I guess. I would just pick a seat.
Yes, exactly.
They'll hook you up. I don't know. Go back there and talk to Jesse and say, hey, I'm at the role. Maybe you use the same mic as Veronica. I don't know.
I can't see that.
Oh yeah, it's a good question. Hey, Disco City over here, one of our like Mount Rushmore traffic troopers, just like Taylor is, and several of y'all commercials here, has a great question. So he asked, what about social media? The hashtag we're using, which we got trending today, by the way, hashtag handsfreeGA, because this is the Hands-Free Georgia Act. Hands-Free-GA. That's where all our questions are coming in. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. If you were able to pull up Facebook at the beginning of this session here, you know, real low key, pull it up because it's okay. You're sitting down, and share our Facebook Live from the WSB Radio Facebook page. And then Veronica and Alex, you get a nickel for every comment that happens in there. So there you go.
So Doug,
Hey.
can you represent?
Doug.
You can eat up here.
Yeah.
Who's there?
Rotating yes.
Okay.
And Lorenzo has asked that we eat the mics. Like, wait, what did you say?
Length, he said.
Thank Jeff?
No, Doug, it's like this.
Lorenzo, make sure I
Keep doing that. I'll show you.
phone guest at the top of the show. I'm worried about you.
Okay.
We got to talk over Veronica Harrell.
Hey, for those that just arrived,
When I run it back, Mark is going to be about this.
Up to the North Springs Market Station, on 75 northbound
Okay.
from Mount Perrin up to 565. Joe Nelson does the speed. President is expecting more opposition
These mics are on, you can hear it?
Administration's recent moves to separate
Yeah,
kids
I can.
from their illegal immigrant parents.
hey, Mike, or Alex, can you run, maybe bring like 3 waters? Just so thank you. Yeah, one right here. Oh, you do good.
The president is calling the opposition to GOP lawmakers like Senator Ted Cruz. I think it's going to keep families together. Immigration will be the big president.
Stephanie. Yeah, that's my namesake.
Surrender so far, no war on Modi. Philly USB News Time is 7:02.
She made me the label and I put it on. Covered up the old emblem. Radio.
Can you quit yet?
Next Nebraska, yeah. Start me.
On the interstate, it's our problem. It's everything from accidents, broken down cars, household appliances,
Sofas, you sit here. Yeah, you take a
Yeah, you haven't watched. There's a lot of techniques. Yeah. There's a low bar of what, I mean, it is. It's actually, I think, you know, when Linda asked me yesterday, it didn't make the story sound, but really, I just, yeah. It is. Because it started out more straight.
Is it really?
Smartwatches are what's happening, man?
We got just one.
They drop you off the backyard.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you know who this is? This is Smiling Mark McKay. Hello, everybody. Pope Jensen, everybody. Digital executive producer, Channel 2.
Jill Nelson is in the WSB 24-hour traffic center.
Earlier crash on the Beaver Spring Connect.
About a minute out, guys.
So right at 85, and that's causing delays back in that direction. Elsewhere, we've got delays at 255 eastbound.
Oh, I did. I did it last week.
75 from the Channel all the way up to Canton Road and towards downtown Atlantic Station, down to I-20. Jill Nelson, WSB.
Forecast. Just a few isolated showers, rumble, thunder possible, but most areas stay dry as we head through this evening.
You got the call on,
Windy drive overnight and into Wednesday morning down towards the low near 75. Partly cloudy at 93 tomorrow, just a 20% chance of a very isolated late day shower storm. Thursday, rain chance comes up to 40% with scattered afternoon storms at a high of 90. Thursday is the first day of
Yes, sir.
summer. 89 with a 60% chance of rain on Friday.
87 degrees on Peachtree Street. It's
All right, stand by.
news on the hour. The half
You have
of
the
when
call
it
on
breaks.
hold on, go.
I'm Jennifer. Atlanta's exclusive.
I do.
Our news, weather, and traffic station. News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB.
This is a special presentation from News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB, Channel 2 Action News, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Georgia's new hands-free law, the do's and don'ts of distracted driving. Your questions answered by the WSB traffic team and a panel of experts. Tonight's hosts are Richard Elliott and Mark Aram.
Welcome to a very special edition of the Mark Aram Show, informing all of North Georgia about July 1, a very important date in Atlanta traffic history. That is when the Georgia hands-free law comes into effect. We have, as the voice guy said, assembled a panel of experts and dignitaries here in the WS. My co-host for the Channel 2 News is Richard Elliott.
Very happy to be here.
Who, as we all know, is a big texter and driver. So this is good that we've got him. We've got Exhibit A.
No, I am not a texter and driver, but I will admit to getting texts and looking down just to see what they are.
Yeah,
I
I
will not text back.
I am, in full disclosure, I do not text and drive, but I will, if I'm at a stoplight, the first thing I do is grab my phone and see what's cooking on social media or text or whatever. So I've got to lose that. From the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, David Wickert. David, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
You've been on the forefront of the print edition of what this law is going to mean to all folks in Georgia, especially here in the metro Atlanta area. From the WSB Skycopter, partners in crime, Smiling Mark McKay and Doug Turnbull. Gentlemen, thank you.
And Smile McKay, thanks for working with me this afternoon, buddy.
You got to get prepped for this.
Exactly right. So we're going to be broadcasting till 9, answering any questions you might have about law. You know, in the traffic world, there hasn't been a change like this since the seatbelt law way back when Doug was in short pants. You know, since then, there hasn't been a law that really impacted drivers as much as the seatbelt law. First of all, thank you from the traffic team anyway for leading the forefront, trying to get distracted driving limited here in Metro Atlanta, because it is a problem. What brought you to the table? What brought you under the gold dome to make this legislation happen?
Sure. And well, first of all, thank you for bringing this to your listeners' attention. This is really going to save lives in Georgia, and we have information that it already is doing so. This issue started for me about a year and a half ago. Take a look at how high insurance rates have been increasing over the past, really about 5 years in Georgia, and particularly the last 3. And it's a nationwide trend, but Georgia led the nation, guys, in all insurance premium increases in 2016. If I were to take if I were in the studio and I take a poll, I'd probably get a lot of hands raised to say how many people paid more in auto insurance this year than they did last year.
Every hand just went up. Every hand just went up.
Yeah. Well, I will tell this to your listeners as well. The auto insurers, if you take a look at their analytical data, they're losing money every single year. You guys in the studio and your listeners, you ever seen insurance companies like Geico and Allstate and State Farm that everybody wants to bundle your home and auto? You ever see that? Yeah. Bundle your home and auto? Well, the reason being is because insurance companies are absolutely losing their shirts on auto policies, and they want to make it with home policies.
We're talking to Georgia Legislator John Carson of Marietta, who introduced the hands-free law that goes into effect July 1st. And it's interesting, the trend is trending downward in a bad way, John, but it had been trending upward until the invention of smartphones. You know, cars are getting safer now. I have 42 airbags in my car right now. Cars are safer, yet fatalities are going up, crashes are going up. Drunk driving is going down. The only thing that's increasing is distracted driving, and the smartphones are the biggest cause of that.
Oh, absolutely, guys. Fatalities increased by 34% between 2014 and 2016. Traffic crashes did a similar increase, about 36%. And what we have determined from State Patrol and Governor's Office of Highway Safety and local law enforcement, this is not an increase in DUIs or weather-related accidents or what have you. The rear-end collisions, single-car collisions, in other words, a car not maintaining the road and departed off the lane and going into a telephone pole or something like that, and then crashes of 15 to 25-year-old drivers. Rear-end collisions, single-car crashes, and crashes by 15 to 25-year-old drivers. Law enforcement is telling us, guys, that all three of those are indications of driver distraction.
Representative Carson, this is Richard Elliott from Channel 2. I know I've asked you this question before during the session. I wanted to ask it again. Yeah. You started this just trying to see how to bring down car insurance rates. And as you begin to do research, you see the correlation between that and crashes involving distracted driving. Can you kind of describe that aha moment where this went to saving lives? You realize that this is actually killing people and we need to stop this?
Sure. We formed a study committee. We went all over the state talking to law enforcement to say, what are you seeing out there? And I don't want to talk about the statistics and the national trends. I want to talk to traffic enforcement. What are they really seeing? And what they're seeing is that people are constantly on their phones or whatever mobile devices that they have. Richard, you're exactly right. What this started out for me is insurance. Looking at insurance premiums, why is it going up? And the reason it's going up is because of claims. Claims are going up because of crashes, and crashes are leading to fatalities. It's a terrible cycle, and I'm hoping that this is the right first step to making a change for that.
Georgia Legislator John Carson joining us from Marietta on the Mark Arum Show. A special edition here as we ramp up to July 1st when the hands-free law goes into effect in Georgia. How was the help under the Gold Dome, Mr. Carson? Were you getting bipartisan support on this? How tough was this to get the bill through?
I did very much have bipartisan support because no one really can argue with what the trends are, and you really can't argue with what you're seeing in your hometown, in your traffic intersections, at your stop signs. People are looking at their phone, and they're, and these days they're not just texting, they're doing all kinds of different apps and Facebook and Snapchat and so forth. This is absolutely a bipartisan effort and a bipartisan result. When it passed the Georgia House, it passed probably 150 to 20. When it passed the Senate, it passed with either unanimously or with one dissenting vote. We had a lot of support for this, and led by Speaker Ralston and Governor Deal.
Is there anything that didn't get in the bill that you wanted in there?
When we started, we were looking at having some sort of one-touch language, whereas you could only touch your phone once, or so I have an Android, so I really just use the touch. But I think iPhones have the swipe feature, we were looking at doing something like that. What we ended up doing was just simply stating, for the simplicity of law enforcement, is that you can't hold or support the phone. Now, your listeners and all on July 1st can still touch your phone screen. You can still dial a phone call, receive a phone call, end a phone call. You can use voice-to-text technology. You can use GPS, but you can't hold or support the phone. And obviously, no texting and watching videos or what have you. That's not allowed.
Representative Carson, I know that originally the bill was much stricter, much sterner on the penalties. I believe it was a $300 fine. And I know that during the negotiations, as with any bill that becomes a law, there are changes made. Are you satisfied with it now at 50, 100, and 150?
That's on the lower end of national levels for these type of citations. But, you know, I know a lot of people are talking about that level, but the reality is that if a traffic enforcement officer catches a driver texting and driving right now, that is $150 fine right now. So I know a lot of people are accusing me of revenue raising and so forth. All that revenue stays in the municipal courts and the county courts, and there's nothing in it for me to raise that revenue because it doesn't come to the state at all. I just want the behavior to stop. I want insurance rates to go down, and ultimately, guys, I want lives saved as a result of this.
Representative Carson, Dave Wickert at the AJC. You mentioned one of the objections to the law, which is, well, this is just a money grab. The other one, and I know you heard it even during the legislative session, is that this is the nanny state. It's the government overreach. It's the government telling us how we're supposed to live our lives and how we should behave. Can't people just take personal responsibility for themselves? What do you say to those folks?
What I would say is that one person's liberty does not give them a right to endanger my public safety or endanger my life. I've heard that argument quite a bit, and I understand. If I was trying to write a law or regulation against saying what website you can be on in your home or while in the backseat of a car, I would understand. I would want that pushback as much. I love personal freedom just as much as anybody else. But what I also want is public safety to live another day with that personal freedom.
I've had that question a lot too, and I say, well, then is the drunk driving law an infringement on your freedom? I mean, it's a public safety issue. And if it was, again, we've been dealing with a lot of questions on the traffic team about this, and if it was a revenue generator, the fines wouldn't be so minimal. I really liken it to the seatbelt law. When the seatbelt law first came in, everyone was up in arms. I've never worn a seatbelt. Why is the government telling me about? And then slowly people realized that it's a smart thing to wear your seatbelt.
That's the exact point.
Hey, Mark, I wanted to mention one thing. I had a libertarian on my group that's helped sponsor the bill and so forth, and that libertarian said to me, John, I hate the seatbelt law because if I want to endanger myself, that's my right. Okay. I hate the helmet law because if I want to ride a motorcycle and not wear a helmet, that's my right. I can endanger myself. I am supporting your bill, John, is what he said to me. I'm supporting your bill because if I drive distracted, it's not the same as a seatbelt or a helmet. I'm endangering other people when I drive distracted.
That's correct.
And the counter argument I have to your libertarian friend, I'm libertarian at heart, is when he doesn't wear his helmet and gets in a motorcycle crash and dies, it's going to be an hour and a half longer investigation on the interstate for us to. So it is impacting my life and my liberty and my pursuit of getting to work on time. So
And your insurance rates.
And my insurance rates.
Yes, exactly. And so one thing, Smile and Martin McCain, and this is Doug Turnbull, by the way, Representative Carson, who's joining us here live. But Smile and Martin McCain and I studiously read an article that you wrote, and the thing that's decreasing fatalities and wrecks as was in other states. Could you explain that stat a little bit? Because we've had questions. Does this even work?
Yeah, I understand, and it's a worthy question. There are 15 states that have hands-free laws or some sort of similar statute. Of those 15, and that's as of right now, of those 15 states, 12 of them saw a decrease in fatalities 2 years after the law's passage. 2 other states did not have data, enough data to make that determination. In other words, the law was passed just recently, and 1 saw an increase in fatalities. I don't know what's wrong with Illinois. I can't explain that. Of the 12 states plus the 2, and including the 1 in Illinois, those states saw an average 16% decrease in fatalities within 2 years of law passage, and about a 17.5% decrease in fatalities life to date since their law's passage. These laws work. Man, and more than anything, it raises awareness to say, I don't need to be on my phone, I don't need to have it in my hand, so forth and so on. That was the overall goal with this, is just overall to save lives, specifically by getting the mobile devices out of our hands.
And Representative Carson, this is Richard Elliott again. The question I've had a lot is, well, Georgia has an existing no texting and driving law, no distracted driving law. Why didn't that law work? And I've heard the explanation, but I was hoping you'd be able to explain to law enforcement the problems they had enforcing the original no texting and driving law as opposed to this one.
I'm sorry, you there?
Yes, did you hear the question?
I think the question was, why does the no texting law not really work?
Right, why law enforcement said they needed this version, they needed your law, and that they just couldn't enforce the no texting and driving law.
What they basically said to us, guys, is that they absolutely cannot tell whether or not somebody's texting or dialing while they're simply looking through their tinted window, through your tinted window, to your screen. They just have no clue. In other words, if I were in the studio and I had my Google Android phone and I had the back of it facing you guys and I was tapping on it, you wouldn't be able to tell whether I was dialing my wife or sending a text to her. It's simply, you cannot tell what somebody's doing on a screen. And frankly, as someone that likes liberty, I don't want the government looking at what I'm doing on my screen. I want to dial who I need to dial, what have you. It's simply unenforceable because you can't tell what somebody's doing on the phone because these devices are so versatile.
Representative Carson, Smiley Mark McKay. I'm going to piggyback on that thought. What about the enforcement, and how difficult will it be for the men and women of law enforcement to enforce this law come July 1st?
Well, they're telling us this is a much simpler statute to enforce, Mark. What they're saying is all they have to determine is whether or not a driver has a phone in their hand. Are they supporting it with their body, meaning do they have it lodged between their shoulder and their head? Are they holding it in their lap or what have you? It's going to be a lot simpler to determine that than it is what are they doing on the screen on their phone.
Representative Carson, thank you so much for joining us on WSB Radio, WSB Television, and AJC.com. In the traffic world, this is a big thing, and traffic is such a huge issue here in North Georgia and Metro Atlanta, and it's just everyone is on their phone when they're driving now. So it was a long time coming to get this thing done. Hopefully it'll make our roads safer and our commutes easier, where people aren't stuck at lights, reading Facebook, and they can actually go when the light turns green. So I personally applaud you on this legislation, and I think you did a great job. So thank you for that, and thank you for taking time. Yeah, give him a round of applause.
One thing I'd like to say, this is what started out with insurance rates. It really became about saving lives, and I could not have done this. Guys, I could not have done this without the families that were so involved with this, such as Kathy Clark and her husband, Craig, who lost their daughter Emily, Natalie Bacho. Natalie lost her daughter Abby. And that wasn't even a texting or incident, what have you. That was simply some young driver on his phone. This legislation is going to be in effect July 1st, and it is saving lives, and I couldn't have done it without their support.
Representative, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm glad you pulled over on the side of 75 to make this call and not violate any laws, but we do appreciate it. And we'll be in touch as July 1st comes approaching.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John. All right, so that was the nuts and bolts of it right there. There's the representative that made this law happen. We've got a ton of questions people want to ask. If you are listening right now or watching on Facebook, you can use the hashtag handsfreeGA to ask us questions. We've got an audience here that are going to ask questions in person. We've got open mics on the WSB Radio app. But since this is my show and I'm the host, I get to ask the first question.
All right.
So I'm going to direct this to basically our hands-free experts, Dave and Doug, because you guys have been on the forefront in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution of really laying out what lays in front of us. So I'm going to use my executive privilege here and ask this. The only time I am driving and touching my phone at the same time is when I'm using my GPS. GPS, I mean, you remember when when Captain Herb hired us, it was all map books, you know, before MapQuest, before the internet.
I was an expert at the.
I still have my
I
map
missed
books,
the map
exactly.
books.
But now, but yeah, U37. But now, the GPS on the phone is invaluable to me. I use it more than, that's the only time I touch my phone. Dave, I'll start with you. What am I gonna do? Am I screwed? Do I have to bring the map book back again? What's going on?
You're not screwed, you don't need the map book.
Okay.
I feel like that would be more distracting than. Hey,
The law specifically allows you to use your GPS program. You can even touch your phone to program it, although you're not supposed to hold the phone.
Gotcha.
So if you have a mounted, if you have it mounted on your dash or wherever you might mount it, although the question might still be, I suppose if Representative Carson were still on the phone, he might say, but is that what you should be doing anyway?
Right. So let me give you for example, Doug. Let's say I'm going to Fred's Barbecue House in Lithia Springs.
all right. Where's the all right?
I know where it is, but let's just assume I don't know how to get there, and I'm leaving WSB, the compound here, and I'm going to Fred's Barbecue House for Yellow Jacket Dog. Do I have to, what do I do in my GPS? Do I put it in my GPS when I'm here? Can I not look at it in the car? Can I hold it? What exactly?
Correct me if I'm wrong, David, is as long as you're not holding the phone, you can do whatever you want,
That's my understanding as well.
including
Not holding the phone.
if it's laying flat on your center console or laying in a
Okay.
holster in front of you or a windshield mount. You can technically, by virtue of the law, press the keyboard or even press the microphone and say Fred's Barbecue House and still do it. There's sort of three buckets of things. There's stuff that's really lenient, stuff that's medium, and stuff that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
The two things that are really lenient are making phone calls and using your GPS. As long as you're not holding or supporting it, you can still dial 404-897-7500 to make a phone call.
Smile, Mark McKay.
Okay,
interject.
so I went ahead of the law and I purchased a device to mount my smartphone, which we utilize in our business from wherever we are to the Skycopter and back for traffic information. I noticed there is still a bit of a distraction looking up and down. I've been in rideshare programs, Uber and Lyft, where the drivers, and don't we all know this, we've been behind drivers that depend on GPS, they hit their brakes in the middle of an intersection, not going left or right. I still see some issues here, even with it being mounted.
Sir, so yeah, it sets a low bar for GPS. That doesn't mean it's safe to do the legal thing. That's,
All right.
yeah.
What interesting thing, and I don't know if we have any millennials in the audience right now. What I noticed, there we go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 27 millennials in the audience. What I noticed, and this isn't going to affect the old school guys like David, Richard, and myself, but no more videoing while driving, which I didn't think should have been pointed out in the
2010 or 2011, that wasn't an issue with the texting law, right? So.
Well, just how many times on Facebook, for example, have you seen someone post a picture of the cool license plate that they saw, or the bumper sticker they thought was hilarious? You're not going to be able to do that anymore.
But David, how many tragedies have we seen with Snapchat?
Oh,
Video of
gosh.
people going 120 miles an hour, and then it goes black because they've gotten into a fatal crash.
I believe I hear music in the background. Is that right? Yes, all right.
Yes.
So we're stepping away?
We're
We're stepping away from
breaking
weather and traffic. All right, thank you, Longoria. When we come back, all of your questions via the WSB open mic, via Twitter, #HandsFreeGeorgia. You can email Doug Turnbull, doug.turnbull@coxinc.com directly.
What's up?
I just blew you up right there.
Hey,
He likes recipes, he likes email forwards, anything you want to send Doug right there. We'll come back, answer all your questions. Richard Elliott, David Wickert, Doug Turnbull, Smile and Mark McKay, special presentation of Cox Media Group Atlanta. Back after this.
You guys can.
And we're still on Facebook
I
Live.
specifically asked that question for Representative Carson yesterday.
Yeah, very nice. Let's, while we're doing Facebook Live, can we get some of the traffic team up here? Alex Williams,
Yeah.
Milani Kai,
Alex Milani, Jill, Veronica Harrell.
Veronica Harrell.
Of course. Steve Winslow. Where's Wonder Boy? Steve Winslow.
Steve is baking bread.
On your GPS question, the other thing is that there is another distracted driving law that's more general. It's the one that says you shouldn't be eating while you're driving or
Sure.
reading a book while driving. If an officer sees you and you're staring at your screen for so long doing something, even if it's your GPS, you may yet get a ticket
Yeah,
under that
no doubt.
statute.
I once got a ticket for eating Taco Bell behind the wheel.
That's why I go for McDonald's. It's much easier.
Nachos Bel Grande.
Oh, no, not Nachos Bel. We gotta stay together. You cannot do Nachos Bel Grande. Do we have a nacho mount?
It was a big thing.
Is that a nacho mount you're showing?
Do we have the mic? Let's pass the mic around just for the people on Facebook Live. Introduce yourself and tell us what you've been doing with the WSB traffic. All of you.
I'm Alex Williams, and I work in the mornings for Morning Drive with Mark and Ashley, and then in the afternoon drive for the rush hour with Doug and Veronica and everybody else that works the afternoon drive.
AK Little Guy.
Cut your microphone off.
What's that, Lorenzo?
He needs to cut his microphone off.
Oh, first rule of radio, turn on your mic.
It's on.
There you hear it.
There we are.
Veronica?
That's Alex Williams.
I'm Veronica Harrell. I work in the midday from 9, I'm here 9:30 to 6:30, so you hear my voice pretty much all day long on WSB. I hope you enjoy it. I'm here in the morning, in the midday, and then I also do triple team in the afternoon with Alex Williams and Doug Turnbow, as well as Joe Nelson or Smile and Mark McKay. And then sometimes I also do traffic on the weekends for WSB Television.
And did you say Kiss?
Oh, and I also do, I do a lot. I also do traffic for Kiss 104 in the afternoon with Sasha the Diva.
I'm Milani Kai. You hear me on weekends, Fridays and Saturday overnights. And interestingly enough, I'm from New York, so we've had this law forever. And I just got off on a ticket. I went back home last week and I was talking on my phone and I forgot and I saw the lights come on. I was like, oh. And he pulled me over and I showed him my Georgia license. I'm like, to be honest with you, I am from here, but we don't have that law yet. And he said, you know what, you're right. So I'm gonna let you go this time, but remember New York got that law.
Hey, I just wrote my Gridlock guy about how people in other states have handled the law, and it's kind of, they're like, yeah, guys, it's not a big deal. Just get a headset, okay? Come on, headset.
Next up, the overnight ace.
Yep, Steve Winslow, do full-time overnights now, 8:30 to 4. Oh, I thought I was tall enough everyone could see me. But I basically now do the overnight coverage on WB from 8:30 p.m. when Jill and everyone and Alex are leaving until 4:30 in the morning when the A-team comes in. And I see Mark Aram and Ashley Franska walking. So I've been doing that for about 18 months, and I was doing afternoon drive before that for about 4 years.
And who's this guy?
Hey, I'm Mike.
It's his third day on the job.
Yes, brand new here from Atlanta though. And, been in radio for a few years now. And glad to be part of the traffic team.
And your name? Mike Shields.
Mike Shields.
And he's a Captain Hurt protege also. His mom hosted a morning show in Douglasville with Captain Hurt back in the 70s. So he introduced him a long time ago.
All right, so what we're gonna do when we come back live on the radio, we're gonna ask you audience folks questions. So Veronica Harrell is gonna go around with the microphone, and you guys can ask the questions you have about the hands-free law. We'll mix in some questions we got off of Facebook and Twitter, and some open mics as well. And really, what we're gonna try to do for the rest of the show is just knock out as many questions as we can to get answered. Now that I've gotten my question answered,
that's it.
I'm fine. Now,
Do you want us to say our name or just ask a question?
Well, Veronica's gonna.
Yeah, Veronica will handle it.
You got a question now?
And so like Alex has been texted 5 by Zach Morgan here that they've already pulled off social media just since it started too. So you got some already in the queue.
First one is from @ATL Knowles, wondering how is this going to be enforced, which we've touched on, and will it only be enforced if it is causing an accident?
I've talked with several police agencies about this issue, how they're going to handle it come July 1st. First, there is no official grace period in the law. That there's nothing in there that says that they have to give warning tickets for 90 days or anything like that. However, the Georgia State Patrol, its default position for the first 90 days is going to be to issue warnings. They want to educate people. Now, if they see something egregious, they're going to write a ticket. They have that ability. And on the other hand, there are agencies that say they're going to be writing tickets from day one. Now, it's up to the officer's discretion, but...
And Candace Presley, our manager, operation. She lives in Cobb County and sent me a note this morning that says the Cobb police have said that they're only going to issue warnings for the first 30 days, and then they'll begin writing tickets after.
There was confusion when the bill was first being debated, because a lot of the lawmakers said there's going to be a 90-day grace period, so it was reported, so a lot of people just assumed there was going to be, and as Dave said, the Georgia State Patrol is going to say 90 days, but then it was up to the different municipalities, counties, to do whatever they want to do.
Our law expert, Phil Holloway, is going to be on after 8 o'clock to get in the nitty-gritty with some of that too, so we'll answer more about the enforcement.
For a driver though, do you want to figure out which place you're driving in and figure out if they're going to have a grace period or not, or do you just want to start on?
But I think like every law that's on the books now, it will be at the officer's discretion. You know, the rolling through a stop sign, not coming to a complete stop, it's the officer's discretion whether or not you get a ticket.
But it's not going to be just, if an accident happens, we think you're on the phone, you're going to get charged. If they see you on the phone, holding that phone, they can pull you over. It's not like it used to be when the seatbelt law was first put out. It was, if it's a contributing factor, if we see, we're not going to pull you over for not wearing a seatbelt, but if you stop for something else, you're not wearing it.
Well, I was going to save that. Well, let's save that question before we come back. That's a very important question. Dave, real quick, these are statewide fines, right? The city of Powder Springs can't jack it up to $300. No. Okay, so these are statewide fines, which I imagine can be revisited by the legislature at some point if they don't feel it's a big enough deterrent.
Stand by, 30 seconds.
30 seconds out. So
if y'all have some good questions, if y'all have some good questions, try to flag down Veronica so she can get a couple of the queue there for when we.
Longoria?
Yeah.
I want to play open mic 3 here, okay?
Okay.
I'll call for it.
I wish Tim Andrews was here to be open mic.
WSB Storm. We're showing some showers up in Marietta right now. 87 degrees on Peachtree Street at News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB. Depend on it.
Georgia's new hands-free law, the do's and don'ts of distracted driving. This is a special on-air and online presentation hosted by the WSB traffic team. Tonight's hosts are WSB's Mark Aram and Richard Elliott from Channel 2 Action News.
Welcome back. Special edition of the Mark Aram Show here on the nifty 750 WSB. A nice collaboration with our friends upstairs on the 3rd floor. By the way, guests, you'll get to see the palatial 3rd floor at the end of the broadcast. Much nicer than the radio digs. Richard Elliott from Channel 2 Action News, David Wickert from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and my Skycopter pals Doug Turnbull and Smiling Mark McKay. Try to get you prepared for July 1st when the hands-free law goes into effect here in the state of Georgia. We've got a ton of questions covering pretty much all bases about this new law. We've got an audience here. Veronica Rell's going to ask some questions to the audio. The audience is going to ask us questions, and we'll hopefully try to answer them. We've also taken questions via the open mic feature on the WSB radio app. So Longoria, the stoic Eskimo, if you can, play open mic number 3 for us, a question off the WSB radio app.
So what are the rules at a traffic light? Can you look at your phone?
This is a big one for me because again, it's second nature. I can hit that stoplight, I grab my phone and say, all right, what has Doug tweeted out about NASCAR? You know, I need to know what's going on. So I fully admit I've got to break that habit. David, can we look at our phones at a traffic light?
You can't hold your phone, period.
Okay.
I mean, you can't. Sure, you could look at it. But can you check email, any of that kind of stuff?
Well, the law doesn't change because you're stopped.
Right, the law, that's right. The exceptions to the law are if you're in some sort of emergency situation.
Sure.
You know, you see an accident or a crime and you're reporting it. Or if you're legally parked. Being at a stoplight is not legally parked. You have to be out of the right-of-way, off the road, in a place where it's legal to park.
So if I get what Mark suggested, I'm going to try to get one of those mounts for my car. If I'm at the stoplight and I'm not moving, I can touch my phone and say, all right, clear that text, or so I can fear now. Richard Elliott says
the
no.
rules don't change just because you're stopped. So anything while the car is moving, it doesn't change when you're stopped in traffic or at a light.
All right.
And that's the biggest thing. I think people are like, wait, but I can be safe, right?
What about at a drive-through restaurant? Can I?
As long as you're getting nachos, grande, and putting it in the mouth.
Sorry, that was another just for me question. I'm thinking the Chick-fil-A drive-through. All right, Veronica Rell to the audience. We have some traffic troopers out there, distinguished guests. Questions for the panel.
Disco Smitty has a question about his 15-year-old.
So I have a 15-year-old learning to drive this year. And, you know, I know how teenagers are, they're not gonna listen to you all the time anyway. But so what's the next step to completely removing physical interaction with the phones?
If I may, so currently under Georgia law, teenagers are not allowed to use an electronic device while driving, period. Hands-free, nothing. However, under the new law that's going to change, they will be able to use hands-free technology, and just like you or me. I talked to Representative Carson about this yesterday. He said it's possible they may revisit that in the next legislative session. The reason that the change was made is, he said, is because law enforcement officers, just like they have a hard time telling if you're texting or dialing your phone, they have a hard time telling someone by looking at them, are they 17 or 18, you know? And so it's just easier from their perspective to say, nobody gets to have a phone in their hand. You know, everybody gets to do hands-free. That said, Representative Carson said that they would see what, you know, revisit that, they might revisit that issue depending on, you know, I mean, what happens.
And as a parent, there's cell blocking technologies that, like boxes that, and I don't know what they're called exactly, that you can put in the car. And then there's things on your phone that you can put, either different apps or the on driving mode on iPhone stuff too.
Don't let her leave the house till she's 21. You don't have to worry about cell phone stuff. Just keep her at home, Smitty. I've got a Twitter question from Sound Doctrine. This is a big one. Svan, you addressed this earlier. How does the new hands-free law in Georgia affect Uber and Lyft drivers? We have to use our phones. I'm a big ride kind of guy. I use these services a lot. It seems to me that they all have the phones mounted, and they should be able to navigate without picking up the phone, right? Do we?
Well, my experience with the 2 weeks of this, there is distracted. If you are utilizing GPS, your eyes are coming off the roadways. I mean, I was testing this out just to see, riding in, looking at, you know, our Triple Team Traffic Alerts maps, and yes, there is distraction there. So you're not getting completely away from the distraction aspect of, because the phone, while it's within eyesight, you're off the road.
Anything you do behind the wheel that's not driving is distracting. Whether you're changing from AM 750 to 95.5 FM on your phone, on your, you know, you're distracted just pushing buttons.
So you're still okay. And there's also a rumor going around that windshield mounts in Georgia are illegal, and I checked with the state patrol, and that is completely not true. The windshield mounts are legal.
Is that true?
Yes.
Longoria, can I get the Mark Aram Show breaking news sounder?
Where's Hector? Where's Hector?
He doesn't have it. Never mind.
Okay.
All right. Let's go back. That's good to know.
Isn't that what it is?
That is great. That's great. Veronica Rowe, get another question from the audience.
Yes, Snowman has a question about commercial vehicles.
As the fastest tow truck this side of the Mississippi, we're all dispatched electronically. Commercial vehicles have been doing that since the last couple of years, and the federal government's already prohibited commercial vehicles from holding cell phones and using cell phones without a hands-free device. How will our electronic tablets and GPSs that receive our dispatches be affected by this?
I think there's an exemption for emergency vehicles, right?
Yep.
Or
Commercial.
Well, you're talking on the commercial side of things.
But not an exemption for commercial, like trucking, something like that. I don't know, because a tow truck is not really an emergency vehicle, and yet it is an emergency vehicle. So I'm not quite sure.
When you get the dispatches, is it a one-touch thing to clear it?
You touch it, and then it displays your call information, and then you accept it, and it'll start your GPS route.
All right, let's go to the bullpen. Phil Holloway, legal expert, has
Yeah, so federal law, the general rule,
hold on, Phil. Let me get you a microphone. Veronica Harrell.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Veronica's handed me a proper mount here, by the way.
So as a general rule, federal law trumps state law. So what remains to be seen is, did the Congress intend to preempt this area when it comes to commercial vehicles, such that state law has to take a back seat, if you will, to federal law? So that's a legal issue that remains to be seen and will be litigated, no doubt, through the courts.
For what it's worth, there are a couple of provisions in the new law specific to commercial vehicles, and I can
He
tell
has
you what
pulled
they
out.
say.
He's got the law.
While operating a commercial motor vehicle on any highway or state, no individual shall use more than a single button on a wireless telephone
just put it down. But I'm finding out, and leading up to this show tonight, people don't even know when's the law take effect? That's one of the questions.
Right.
People, so the awareness.
And again, to the critics of the law that think this is just a revenue generator, there's not going to be a lot of revenue generated in this at all. This is, again, I liken it to the seatbelt law, where this is a safety thing, and we just got to get used to, we'll use putting our seatbelt on, or now not picking up our phone while driving.
The law also specifically, in addition to having fairly low fines, $50 for a first offense, it also specifically eliminates additional court costs and such that you might normally get, say, with a speeding ticket for this offense. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if that changed in the future, but that's the way the law is right now.
I think more, not damaging, but more of a penalty are the points. You get 1 point for the first offense, 2 points for second, 3 points for third and subsequent. You could pull over twice. I'm not even sure how many points before they pull your license. 10?
14 in a 2-year period, I think it is.
So
15.
Write that down.
Smile, you have 1 point left.
So, I mean, that turns out to be, that turns into a big thing. Now, one interesting feature of that is that if you have your first offense and you go to court and you bring proof to the judge that you have a hands-free device or whatever kind of hands-free device, headset or whatever, the judge can dismiss the charges. However, it stays on your record so that if you get pulled over again, it's like a second offense. It's not like you get a first offense.
You're watching and listening to a special edition of the Mark Arum Show. Georgia's hands-free law goes into effect on July 1st, answering your questions. Richard Elliott from Channel 2 Action News, David Weichert from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and the Skycopter guys, Smiling Mark McKay and Doug Fireball Turnbull. Let's go back to the audience. Veronica Rella, another question from an audience member.
JR has a question about Uber and Lyft.
Piggybacking on what you said about Uber and Lyft, I drive Uber and Lyft part-time, and I keep my thing mounted on the dash like Mark and Doug were saying. But my question is, suppose like sometimes we miss the location, the people call us back. What can we do in that instance?
I think as long, again, with calls, it's very lenient. It just can't be on your body. If you're answering the phone and it's in your windshield mount, your dash mount, or wherever.
Bluetooth is the key for that. Speaking of Bluetooth, Longoria, if you can line up open mic number 4. This is a interesting question because I also own an older vehicle that doesn't have the new fancy kind of things. Open mic number 4, please, Longoria.
This is Brett from Roswell, and my question's about earbuds. I typically listen to music on my commutes. My car is an older car that doesn't have the conveniences of Bluetooth. Am I out of luck with earbuds? If I'm reading everything right, it looks like I can only use earbuds if I'm talking to someone on the phone. Thanks.
So you're allowed to listen to streaming music, you just cannot manipulate it. Like, so if you have a streaming app, like WSB Radio app or Spotify or anything like that, you're allowed to have those playing, if my understanding is correct, as long as you don't manipulate it while you're driving.
And from what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you can't listen to music while driving with earbuds. However, you can use the earbuds to talk on your phone. I don't know how a police officer or law enforcement is going to be able to tell the difference, but yeah, don't listen to music. One ear.
One ear only. So that applies to Bluetooth headsets like this one right here, or even the earbuds that come with your iPhone. As long as you put one in one ear, that's the best way to do the hands-free deal if you don't have a Bluetooth.
Not that I encourage anyone to stream music while driving, because that's what radio's for. You shouldn't do that. Let's assume hypothetically Richard Elliott is listening to Hall & Oates' greatest hits. He doesn't like track 3. He doesn't like track 3. You're stuck. You can't jump over track 3.
Not unless you're legally parked.
Well, I suppose you could do it through voice technology. This is one of my weaknesses. I have a 2003 Honda Civic, but because I really like listening to music through my phone, I went out and bought the fancy stereo that lets me plug my phone into it. For me, all I gotta do is hit next, hit the next button. In that situation, Richard may be out of luck.
And a newer car, now keep in mind, this is if you're doing it through your phone. If you're playing it through your car's fancy in-dash system, you are allowed to manipulate anything that goes through that, including text messages, because they don't allow that. A keyboard doesn't pop up when you're in-car dash. That's all voice to text. So if it's going through like my 2018 Chevy Traverse, okay, that's got the brand new deal in it. then yeah, you're okay.
Braggart.